In this video, I am going to do a basic tutorial using RE framework. Uh, so, Before that, if you hadn't seen my first video where I have described the basics of RE framework, so I recommend everyone to view that so that you can have a better understanding of RE framework before doing this tutorial. So, let's start with the tutorial. So, just open the RPA challenge website. Yeah, so this is our tutorial. This is where we are going to do our tutorial on RE framework. So instructions, you can just log to this website rpachallenge.com. I have provided this in the description of YouTube, so you can find the and the instruction you can already provided here. So our main agenda in this RPA challenge or this tutorial is there is an Excel file here. So I recommend to download this challenge. Okay, save it. Now open this file. So this is the Excel data of some of the persons stating their first name, last name, company name, role in company, address, email and phone number. So our main aim is to transfer this data from this Excel file to this form. Okay, for example, I am taking the first row, and first row I am taking the first name John. So just type here John, and the last name I think it is Smith, and the company name let's say IT Solutions. Okay, and role in company I think it is analyst, and email let's say email is John Smith at itsolution.uk. John Smith IT Solutions .co.uk, and just phone number is something like, just enter something, and but it should be directly from the Excel data. So Excel data is showing some other value, but just I randomly enter. So address you can see 98 Fort Road, 98 North Road. So what our automation has to do is it should take the each data and it should type it in this form. So after completing this form, you have to click submit. So our main challenge or main constraint in this RPA challenge is that every time the field position changes. So now since you have typed the first data, now you type the second data. Okay. Similarly, you have to type the second data, and after typing second data, you just take submit. You get you can see that everything form field is its position is continuously changing. So that is a main constraint in this RPA challenge. So you have to I think do like this for like this 10 data. Okay, and this is actually what we have to do using a RA framework. So I think first you have to download this data, and after this process we can start to build our workflow using RE framework. Okay, so just open UiPath Studio. So if you have any doubts on this challenge, mostly they have provided instruction itself here, so you can read this also. I open this RPA UiPath book. Now just click on Robotic Enterprise Framework. Now add a particular name for the framework. Let's say variable data entry, and saving, and I am saving it in the particular folder. Just save it here. Okay, it's creating the file. Okay, so now open. So this is our robotic enterprise framework. So as you have seen the first video of my introduction to RE framework, I think you have watched it, and now you know some basics of RE framework. But there should be some doubt while doing this some tutorials on it, and also you have doubt where you can apply this RE framework. So in this all the series of tutorials that I am doing, to the end of the tutorial, what all these tutorials, what you can understand is that where you can apply the RE framework, how to do is everything. Okay, so for starting, I have started by using this RPA challenge. So later we will do with some of challenges challenges that were in RPA using RE framework. So you can able to understand about this RE framework usage much more better. Okay, so at first, since I told you that you are actually taking the data from the challenge website directly, means you're doing in a data table format, and here I told you that in default transaction item is the queue item. Okay, but we have to convert it into data row because let me take the file. Let's say, yeah, you take this data. So in the case of a data table, that is an Excel data table, each data row is actually a transaction item. So its variable type should be it should be a data row. So you just change the variable name type to data row. For that, just browse here, just type data row. Sorry, it should comes under system.data.data row. In that it comes under as data row. So it is converted. Now you can see that due to change in the variable type of the transaction item from queue item to data row, errors are generated. So that's one of the advantage of UiPath. You can easily identify where the generate errors are. Okay, so again look here. First error. It is not a normal error, mostly due to the change in this item. It may happen. Just type the same thing. Transaction item is nothing. Now, why this error actually occurred here? You can see here. The reason is your transaction item means since your outside variable transaction item is converted to data row, but your argument transaction item, which is inside the invoke get transaction workflow, is in still in queue item. So since we are transferring the data from transaction item, from out transaction item to the transaction item variable, so since the variable is not matching, it is throwing an error. So we have to correct it. For correcting it, just open the workflow. So opening the workflow, you can see that you are using get transaction item here. Since we know that it is not a queue item, there is no use of get transaction item. So you can either disable it or you can delete it. but I prefer the first option, disable the activity. For disabling the activity, either you can just right click your mouse and just you can see disable activity, or there is a shortcut provided here, control plus D. You can do also that for disabling the particular activity. Okay, so you have disabled that particular activity. Now this activity will not work. And what's the main problem? You have to convert this out transaction item argument type q item to data row. So just click on it and data row. Okay, so now it is being converted to data row. Okay, so just save this workflow, and after that just go here. You can see that the variable is missing. Just type this transaction item again, transaction item again. Now click OK. Now that since there is error in the yeah, that same error that you can just type again, nothing here. Okay, just type again this. Oh, that you have to type this all again. Okay, just delete all this data, then you do it. Okay, that's correct. Now after this process, you have to now you see that there is no error in this get transaction data, and after it is corrected, now you can see that there is some error in process transaction. You have to correct that. So again, just open workflow, and in process, yeah, process, there's an error where same error may be there because queue item problem, the same problem, that is because the data that is transaction item is transferred into the in transaction argument of this process workflow, but we know that in transaction item is a queue item and transaction item is a data row. So it is not possible that they are two different variable types, so it is not able to transfer between data between them. So we have to change the data type of process workflow. So just open it and click on argument, then change this queue item to data and save it. After saving this, just open this again, save transaction item. Okay, now still error is there, you can see. So in the previous video I forgot to tell you about the transaction status and so on. I think you have learned this transaction status concept by using the queue item. Okay, so just I will tell you here, because this get transaction status mostly it is used in queue to confirm whether a transaction item is found to be successful or it is failed or not. That is the use of is get transaction status. So you just open the workflow, you can have a clear picture of it. You can see here, I think that is, if it is a success, you can see that, just open here, you can see that it will be you can see that it would be, if it is success, then this is the transaction, this is used to set the transaction status either to success or fail. You can see transaction item will be successful, and if transaction item will be successful, it will what else it will do at last. If you can see here, if the transaction item is successful, it will increment the transaction number so that it can go to next transaction. That is, if the transaction item of first is successful, the transaction number is incremented to, let's say, 2, because default in the UiPath RE framework it is given as 1, but so first transaction is successful, now it increment the transaction number so that it can go to next transaction. Okay, similarly during business exception also, it can increment the transaction number. But in system exception, what happens? Uh, it will restart the application once again. That's the basics about this get transaction status. Okay, so there is an error here. What's the main error? Yeah, main error is this queue item, because transaction item is in transaction item in this get transaction workflow is a queue item, but transaction item is a data row. So we have to convert its argument type of in transaction item. For that, just open this workflow and argument. So you convert this. Now you can find some errors other. Either you just go to, you can delete all this, but I will not, but it's actually optional. You can delete this, and then you can increment transaction number in the get transaction site itself. But I prefer, but it depends upon you. Okay, so since we know that this is a queue item and it is not required as a part of our workflow, since we know that our transaction item is a data row, so we have to, either we can do what, we can disable it, or you can use control plus D for this. Okay, okay, so which is okay, just save this. Now go to business exception, do the same process. Now I will press control plus D for disabling this activity. It is disabled, but please prefer disabling rather than deleting. Sometimes if you disable an activity or delete an activity, it is gone for forever, but sometimes that same activity, sometimes you have to be used sometime again. So that is why I prefer disabling rather than deleting the activity, because disabling you can use the activity once again by enabling it by using either control plus E option, or you can just right click and there is an enable activity option. Okay, so here also same problem. So here you can see, you can just disable activity here. Okay, you can disable also this too. Okay, so now we have disabled all the activity. Now press this. uh, System exception already done. Okay, good. Now it's already done. Same error. Why? Everything is correct. Okay, good. Everything is correct. uh, Now you go back and now everything remains clear. Okay, so next is you want to so next we can start doing our work. So first process, we have to initialize the application. So initializing application means along with initialization we are actually reading the configuration file. That is this Excel file. You can just open data, and this Excel file is also being read, and Excel file is read and it is converted to a config dictionary variable that we already been discussed, and from that variable you can directly take the data. So here also, for example, I am storing the website name in the config file for my easy usage, so that if there is any error comes here I can directly change that. Okay, so just use yeah, just open the config file and typing, let's say, RPA website, and then just type the challenge website there. Now you just type the description you require. For example, uh, this is the website where RPA challenge is being done. This is optional. Okay, so just save it. And next, constant, you can just set this maximum retry number to 2, because since we are working with the data table, and assets which is not required as for it. And now everything is correct, just save it. Okay, now we have to initialize our application. For initializing the application, instead of going here and just opening this workflow here, you can open your init application workflow from this framework option, and from framework option you can take init all application xml file. You can open here also from this also. So for that you can take an act you can just use open browser activities, because first you have to initialize your application or initialize your browser, means you have first open your browser. So first open browser option is used, open browser. So just give a description for the name of an activity, because open RPA challenge website. Okay, so now you have to specify the URL name here. Since we have provided the URL name in the RP in this config file, so you can directly call it from the dictionary format itself. How? Since we know that dictionary transfer is in the form of inconfig, so you can save it in the form of inconfig. Just type it as RPA website in context, because this is actually the key and this is the value section. So here the key name is RP website and the value is rphn.com. So since we know that in dictionary if you type the key you can correspondingly get the value. So this is the key, RPA website is a key. So this is a dictionary in config. So in config RP website will corresponding give you the value, that is the value will be the website name. But you know that the web since you can easily understand here, the dictionary is a string and object. It implies the object is the value. So object is the value, so you have to convert it into the object. So since it's an object you have to convert it to a string, so just to string. Okay, so it is converted to string. Now it is okay. Now mostly whenever you're opening a website, just try to use this maximize workflow, maximize window, so that this so no error can occur. Okay, so after this uh, because before starting our activity you have to press the start button, because when you're pressing start it represents round 1. Round 1 means you are filling all the data. That is, you are filling all the data first row. Okay, submitting second. This is round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5. Likewise, you are just doing this up to round 10. Means each round represents each data that you have to type into each field. Okay, round 10. And finally, it will give you like this. Okay, so yes, I refresh this site, and now we have to click on click activity. Click already is even here. Okay, so click means you have to click start button. You have to click start button. You have to click start button. Press here. Okay, and also since open browser, you have to specify which browser you are using. Since I am using a Chrome browser, I can specify Chrome. If you are using Internet Explorer browser or Firefox browser, you have to specify it correctly though. So I'm using Chrome browser, so just specify it. Okay, so you have clicked the start button. uh, so this is actually where we are going to initialize application, means we are just opening the website, that is the initialization part, it is completed. So next step, what is the next step? You have to uh, get the transaction data. So getting the transaction data, you have to first read the file, That is, you have to first read this challenge Excel file, and again, yeah, you have to read this first challenge Excel file, and then you have to take each transaction data. Okay, okay, so so now, uh, so the path of this challenge file you can substitute in the, or you can put it in the config file itself. Let's say challenge file. So just put the name here. So its path in the dot xlx challenge dot xlx. Okay, so better understand. So from this file, the for data form in the website is taken. Yes, you can give the description also, which is better. Just save this, and close this. Now open the get transaction sample file, and here you have to do two. First, what is the first step? You have to read the this Excel file and convert it into the data table format. So it should happen once only. So happening it once, condition is that if transaction number is equal to 1, means if your transaction number is equal to 1, then only it should read the data table. So you can give that also. So let's say, you can put a if condition. So my easy understanding, I think you know that, no, that's not required. You can do it. So let's say, sorry, in transaction number dot to string dot equals 1. If in transaction number dot to string equals 1, then you have to read the Excel file. So if you just type, if it uh, if it is a first uh, transaction, if it is a first transaction, this you can give here. So you have to specify the workflow path. For specifying the workflow path, that the key is challenge file, and the value is this. So the challenge file you can just name here in config, because you know that the dictionary is in config dictionary. So in config, the name, I think it is challenge file. Okay, just put in the string challenge file dot to string. Okay, now you know what is the sheet name. Sheet name is itself. Now, okay, so read range, you know that you are not reading into a particular area. Yes, you can put it between the formats. You can put like this. So read range, you can just change the read the challenge Excel file. Okay, now we want to store this reader data into data table. So already in the RE framework, we are provided with a data table, that is input output transaction data. You can put that here. Okay, so IO transaction data here. Okay, so so now you can just say get transaction data. Now you put another if condition, because next your if condition is to retrieve the transaction data. So you have to think, to retrieve your transaction data, what would be the condition? The condition would be, that is, here we know that the number of rows here are 10. Like except these headers, the number of rows are 10. So if the transaction number becomes, let's say, 11, you can't see that there is no data. So what should be the condition? The condition is that if transaction number is exceeding the value of the number of rows in this Excel file or in the data table, then transaction item should be nothing and it should be the end of the process. Okay, so the condition is, um, input output, sorry, in transaction number is less than or equal to input output transaction data dot rows dot count. Okay, if it is less than, then you have to assign a particular value. You just give a header name here so that you can easily understand. Assigning transaction item. So you assign transaction item, assign transaction item. So you can say out, because you know that transaction item in this argument is transferred in the form of out transaction item. So you have to specify like that. So out transaction item, it should be equal to transaction data of um, in transaction number -1. Okay, okay, so we are assigning the transaction item. What does it indicate is that we are assigning the, for example, if it is the why we are using, I have a doubt that why we are using transaction number -1, because here we have specified, we go to main section, you have specified the transaction number 1. You can just use 0 also, but I am following in this way. Okay, you can use 0 and you can do that. So why we are providing transaction number -1? The reason is, we know that the row in the data table always start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. While our transaction number starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So we have to reduce -1 so that while doing input output transaction data, you will get 0th row. Means for transaction number 1 you can get 0th row, for transaction number 2 you can get first row. Okay, as according to data table. If you have used, if you had already given the value of transaction number as 0 instead of 1, you may not have to use this -1 term here. Okay, So or next you can assign another value. Out transaction item is nothing. Here you are assigning nothing. Okay, so I think we have completed our get transaction state. So I think we have completed all the process in the get transaction state. Now we have to move to process transaction state. Okay, so in process transaction state, you have to process this. Means whatever data or whatever the transaction item you have obtained as output, you have to you have to type into this required field. Means you have obtained it in the get transaction, you have obtained this transaction row, or for example you have obtained this transaction row. Now from this transaction row you have to type each value. Let's say you have to type the first name, last name, company name, everything into this form field. But the major constraint in using the form field is that every time when you press submit, the position gets changed. So we have to account for this position, that we can learn which by using which technique we can account this position and so on. Okay, so let me check in the get transaction section. uh, I think I have done some mistakes. Let me check that. Okay, I think it's correct. I think it's correct, but some error will be there. Again, the data count one. Mm, So it's correct. Just I have a doubt that whether there is any wrong or not, something wrong or not. That's why I check it again. So it's correct. So just save this. So since we have completed the get transaction data section, next we have to move to process transaction section, where the data that we have obtained, we have to transfer it to the we have transfer into the input field correspondingly provided. So just open the process data section. You just open the process workflow. So you have to create another sequences so as to input the data from the transaction item data row to the required input field in the website. For that, just create sequence here. Mostly, if there are multiple sequences in the processes, try to use invoke workflow activity, because that's one of the better option. It is one of the good practice to use invoke workflow if there are multiple sequences in your process section. Okay, but since here only there is a simple step, that's why I'm preferring sequences here. Okay, if it is a complex activity, I will try to prefer the invoke workflow activity. It is much better. Okay, so now we just type something like typing data into input forms. Okay, that is the main agenda here. So we know that since whenever we are submitting every time, what happens, position is continuously being changed. So when you simple type into activity, for example, you specify company name by writing here. Next time when you are clicking submit, what happens here is that the company name will be typed here because it does not remember the position. I'm sorry, it does not remember, it does not check whether this label provided here is a company name or not. So we have to check it, only after that we have to type it. For that, in the UI path, actually there is an activity called anchor base. So just check anchor, and just this is anchor base activity for this. So it will first search this UI element, that is a label, and correspondingly it will type the field corresponding to that label. For that, just specify a name for the anchor. You specify the name of the input field itself, that's better. So let's say I am first starting with email, so I'll specify it as email. There's no need, but I'm providing it is that because a person can able easily to understand. For example, if there is an error, you can check which section is being as error by using this anchor based activity. So just use, now you have to anchor means positioning, so you have to use find element activity. So just use find element activity here, and just use indicate on screen. You specify this email section. Okay, so find element, oh sorry, find element email. Now you use type into activity. Type into activity. Okay, so just type into email. So you type into input field. Okay, so what you have to type here, you know, in transaction item, you have to specify this is actually a data row. So you have to get the corresponding column value of the email. So here you can do either by putting the first name, you know, actually you have work, I think you have worked with UiPath in with using data table. You know how to like specify the column name either by using name, or you can use the column index. For example, the index of column and row both start with 0, means this is the 0th row, this is the first row, this is the second row, this is the third row, and so on. Similarly for column, this is the 0th column, this is the first column, this is the second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column, sixth column. In this way you can specify, means in the row column number you can specify, or you can specify by using the like the name itself. But mostly I use column number. So you can specify in a column by using the column index. Okay, 0th column, first column, second column, and so on, not by the name. Okay, because since you can see there are some spaces here, due to these spaces some errors may occur. Okay, so so in transaction item, so what is the column index of the email? One, it is the fifth. So just type fifth dot to string. Okay, so just if you want to improve the, you can use simulate type itself. You know why we are using simulate type and so on, because you have learned, I think you have learned all these things. Okay, so now use another anchor base act. Similarly, use anchor base for all other activities. So anchor base for, let's say, last name. So use it for same for last name also. So last name. So you can use find element. You can just find element last name. find element last name. Just specify this last name and then type into the last name input field. Okay, so type into last name. So now you have to specify the text, sorry, in transaction item. So here you are specifying last name. So it is 0th index and this is the first index. So its column index is 1. So 1 dot to string, because we are obtaining in the which form, object form, so we have to convert it in dot string. That is why we are using string form. Okay, last name. Now you are using another angle based activity. Here you are using address. So just take the address as the label. So just need address. So now type into address. You can just specify the address also. Okay, so now you have to type some values here. You can just use in transaction item, so just know column index, but I am preferring here column index. You can use a name itself, no problem. Column index, so address 0 1 2 3 4, it is a fourth column index. So 4 dot to string. Okay, so now use angle based activity again and use find element. So find element, sorry, find element, you use address. Now you can use role in company. So role in company, role in company. So just find element role in company. Okay, now use type into activity. So just use role in type into role into activity. So now just use this and in transaction item, type role into activity. Here you should be in which column? 0 1 2 3, third column index. So third column index, it should be the, so third dot to string. So don't forget to use simulate type. Okay, so just don't forget to use simulate type here, because it's very because it can improve the speed also for typing. Last name. Okay, so now I think we have done. So we have done for rolling company also. Rolling company. Now we have to do for, I think, a few more fields. I think for uh, rolling company, then first name, company name, and phone number. So just we can fastly do this. Same thing. Just do this. First name, first name, first name. Yeah. Okay. First name. Now use type into activity. So type into first name. So for typing into first name, you could just use transaction item 0 dot string. Okay, use simulate type activity here. Sorry. Here you are specifying the first name. So specify the first name. Okay. Now again use anchor based activity. Check here whether it is correct or not. Okay, it's correct. Now use again find element. For faster, actually I'm again dropping here. So find element, company name, this just change this. Company name, company name. Okay, just type into. You're thinking why I'm just going to write the description, because whenever I write this description, because it's a good practice while you are doing a workflow in the RE framework or any workflow in UiPath, try to describe it so that any user who is trying to doing it can easily understand that. So I recommend this type practice when you are doing any simple workflow in RE, in any UiPath or RE framework. Okay, so now in transaction item, so company name is in which section? I think it is in second column index. So just dot to string, use simulate type. Okay. I think we'll see also. So next I think anchor base. I think company name we have provided. Now we have to provide only one area, that is phone number. So you have to provide phone number. Sorry. Phone number. Now find element phone number, and next you can use type into activity. Type into phone number, and then click on the input submit field, and then use in transaction item. So what is the column index of the phone number? You have to check. It is the 0 1 2 3 4 6. It is in the sixth column index. So 6 output string is simulate. Okay, so now also simulate type true, simulate type true. Let's check it. Okay, if there is any error come, it is also correct. Okay, change the name so that you can easily identify this phone number. Okay, I think you have done in the process section. We have typed the data into input data form. Now you can say another you can just use click activity, because after typing all the data in the input data form, now we have to click this submit button. For that you can just use click activity, click submit button. Sorry, click submit button and just click on submit and use simulate click for faster clicking options, etc. Because we can see that it's have a usage. So I think our process is completed. Similarly, in the initial in a like initial application, also for this also try to use simulate click activity. Okay. So I think we have completed our process. So but end process is there. Actually, end process you can like closing applications there, like closing this browser. Okay, that is has to be done, but we will done after doing like after running it, because after you are submitting the data, let's we start it. When you submit the data, you can see that uh, you can see I have to get this data, how much time we require to type the data in milliseconds and so on. Okay, so you have to get this data, otherwise you can close this, but I will show you how to do this like after doing a one run, after doing a running operation with this workflow. I will do it that this closing part also, that you can have a better understanding the related to this end process state also, or what we are doing in the end process state. I'll show it last. So let's since our workflow is I think completed, let's run our workflows to see, because I'm not sure that in the first time itself it can run, because there should be some error also. But for my case, I think that learning through error is better, because whenever there is error we know how to learn many things, because through error we can learn many things. Okay, so just try to run this workflow. Let's see. Working. Yeah, yeah, it's working. That's a user, we can see that it's very faster, and because it is using simulate click activity, so it's very fast. process completed. So at last we can get a data like this. Congratulations, your success rate is 100% in this second. And optionally, uh, like to create more beauty to this project, what I can do here in the end process, instead of looking like this after uh, after completing the automation, I can do this in the notepad section by after the process completed. It will open a notepad by typing that how much success rate is the etc, or let's say your process completed simply. Okay, so you just open the open workflow. Okay, in open workflow also, mm, it is just for optional work. Don't need much. Just use the activity. mm, Attach browser activity. Indicate the browser here, and close tab. Okay, so this is mm, attach RPA challenge window. Now we are closing. This is actually closing the tab. Now to know that our process has been completed, either you can use a message box, or I prefer like typing in notepad. It's better. Just use open application. Okay, so notepad, it's just for optional. I think it's not required. I think you can require up to this closing the part, but you can use this for beauty of your part. You can use this, yeah, and just try to maximize the window. Okay, okay, so now use type into activity. Open notepad. Now type into, let's say, notepad. Okay, you can do this. I'm not You can do it in your own way. Okay, but to like close, because I'm just showing this to make you to know how to use this close process, or close all application process. Okay, you just type something, let's say process completed successfully. You type here. Okay, so let's again we can run this. Now just try to run this process again. You can see it will work. It's working. Actually, this is the first step tutorial that is being learned when you are actually learned basics of RPA challenge. So I prefer everyone to do this challenge so that you can improve your knowledge at a basic level. Yeah, process completed successfully. So I think to automatically type into notepad also. So this is actually how your RFA. So in this video, so mostly what we have learned is how to do a simple RPA challenge using RA framework. So I think you have understand this. If you have any doubts in this section, you can just comment in the comment box. I will reach out this to you. So thank you. So if you like this video, please subscribe my channel.